So in this little clip, we're going to be talking about how you might go about introducing human you, CEO you, to your chimp, to the limbic part of the brain, and how we are, how we think, and how we behave when we are perhaps operating from this space. Now, some of you might be highly familiar with this aspect of self, and you absolutely ready to go ahead and give that chimp a name, in which case, fantastic. But for others, you might be a little earlier on your journey and think it might be useful to have a little bit of support and some guidance as to how you might get started. So this video is for you. So above all else, before you do anything, I would like to remind you that everything you will do should be done with kindness. Remember, Steve Peters is at pains to point out to us, a chimp is just a chimp. It is neither good nor bad. It is just doing what it is programmed to do the way it has learned to do it, and it's doing its best to meet its brief for success, which is keep you safe. And it's doing so using a set of tools that it believes to be the correct ones, even though on reflection, as a grown adult, you may occasionally disagree with this. So we are not looking to approach this with judgment or blame. That's going to be extremely unhelpful. You want to engage curiosity. Curiosity about what or who you might discover. And it's going to feel familiar. You're already going to know that sometimes you're slightly annoyed, you're slightly frustrated, you're slightly envious, you could be any number of things. These are part of our experience. We're just teasing it out like this to give us a better level of understanding and awareness, and a better understanding of the difference between when we're operating in that mode and when we're our rational selves. So, with curiosity at the ready, here is how you might want to get started. All you're going to need to do is simply pay more attention. Get more curious. Notice more. And I always encourage folks, if this is new and they're getting started, to do nothing more than simply notice for a week or maybe 2 weeks. Just observe. You are an observer. At this point, you don't need to change anything. That can come later, but first of all, you need to understand the status quo. So you're just looking to observe when you might notice that subtle shift from rational thinking mode, feeling calm, feeling in control, feeling secure, and so on, into something that's beginning to feel and sound rather more emotionally charged. So for many of us, this will be a feeling. We might feel it. We might feel emotion coming with it. Anger, frustration, annoyance, upset, disappointment, frustration, hurt, humiliation, fear. These are all the emotions, and there will be many, many more, that would indicate that limbic brain is now much, much more active. The level to which you are feeling those emotions is going to tell you how active it is. It might be grumbling in the background, almost like it's priming, it's getting ready to get involved if it needs. It might be full-blown in control. So we're just looking to notice. And we're looking to notice as we go through the day, well, when does that happen? How does that happen? And then what happens next? What are the behaviors that go with the feelings, if you like? So we might notice that we become more impatient. We might become slightly harsher in our tone. We might take certain actions, or we might avoid certain things. These are the type of indicators that we're looking to get a better feeling for. And for additional awareness, and it's really helpful, we might also want to begin to start to notice the kind of things that are running through our mind, through our inner narrative, as these are happening, because our chimp, just like our human, is going to have a voice, and it's a voice that will be rich in our inner narrative. We will be able to hear it if we tune in. as it tells us what it thinks of what's going on around it. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that's just happened. I can't believe that person has been so rude, so disrespectful. So something that's really annoyed me, it might sound a little bit like that. Sometimes it might sound a little bit more like this. Oh no, not again. I don't have the energy, the will, the fight, and it's a much flatter, almost giving up style of energy. At other times, it might sound a little bit more passive-aggressive, the sort of, you think you've won this battle. You have not. I will have my revenge a little later when you're not looking, that kind of vibe. So we're looking to just notice what we can notice, so that we can get a feel for the type of character that comes in this space, the kind of character that comes with the chimp, because that's going to help us give it a name that's appropriate, that helps capture that. We might also notice the type of actions it tends to take, or the things perhaps it tries to avoid. And we might also notice the story it's telling itself, the story it's telling us as it does so. We might notice sometimes the story itself seems to further fuel the sense of injustice or the perception that a wrong has been done, and almost makes it worse. It's now we're stirring our own pot. So all of this is what we are looking to notice, with curiosity, with kindness, one day at a time, at a level that feels okay. And that's going to vary from person to person, and it's going to vary depending on how aware of this stuff you already are. So please go gentle. Remember, this is an introduction. It's a handshake, not an opportunity to be harsh or judging. That isn't going to be useful to you here. We need to understand, so that we can understand how best to move forward in a way that we are choosing. We're going to find that very hard to achieve if we go in there with our great big stompy boots, get really annoyed about what we find, and very judgmental. So kindness is king, curiosity is key. Just begin to start noticing and notice what you find. That is the perfect place to start. At the same time, it gives you the perfect introduction to your chimp. Once you think you know them well enough, you can then go on and give them a name. It's just going to make them easier to spot, easier to understand, and easier to take into consideration. And ease is going to be our friend here. I hope you enjoy.